Tonight I want to do a quick review of perimeter and talk about how it might be asked on the New York State exam. So our objective is I can solve real-world and mathematical problems involving perimeter. So the first thing we have to do is remind ourselves what perimeter is. A lot of times students go back and forth. They can't remember perimeter versus area. Perimeter would be if you were trying to fence in a yard so your dog can't get out and run wild in the neighborhood. It would be how much fencing do I need? That's perimeter. Perimeter is the distance around the outer edge of a figure. So if I look here and I asked you what's the perimeter of this rectangle, well, I have to know the side lengths of the rectangle to figure out the perimeter. Well, this side length is 1, 2, 3 units long. If this side is 3 units long on a rectangle, the opposite side is also 3 units long. The top edge is 1, 2, 3, 4 units long. Therefore, the bottom edge of that rectangle better be 4 units long. Opposite sides on rectangles are congruent. And sure enough, the bottom edge is also 4 units long. And how do we find perimeter? We just add up all the sides. 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus 3. 4 and 3 is 7, 4 and 3 is 7, 7 and 7 is 14 units. Okay, it might take like 14 feet of fencing if we were going to fence in a yard. That's this little 3 foot by 4 foot. Wouldn't be a very big little garden, but you might plant a little something there. So 14 units would be the perimeter. Back in the day, probably in 4th grade, you probably did perimeter was 2 times the length plus 2 times the width for a rectangle. Well, we could do that. 2 times, what's our length? Our length is 4 units. And then 2 times our width. What's our width? Our width is 3 units. 2 times 4 is 8. Plus 2 times 3 is 6. 8 and 6 is still 14 units. So it doesn't bother me whether you choose to just add up all the sides or you're like, but I know a formula for perimeter of a rectangle. Sure, go for it. So that's perimeter, just the distance around the outer edge. Tomorrow night I'm going to talk about area, which would be how many squares would fill up the figure. But let's see how we could ask about perimeter. So here's a quick reminder. Perimeter is just the distance around an object. The diagram below shows the perimeter of a square whose length is 1 on each side. Oops, sorry about that. I'm skipping slides. So this one, they asked you for a perimeter, and it was just 1 centimeter on each side. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. Oh, that's 4 centimeters. Okay. And then the perimeter of a square who's 4 centimeters on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So that's 16 centimeters if you just add up all the sides. And some of you might say, but I know the perimeter of a square is just 4 times the length of a side because those sides all match. Well, sure it is. So if I wanted to do the perimeter of this square, I could do 4 times a single side is 1. 4 times 1 is 4. That's the same as just adding up all those sides. The perimeter for this square. Some of you are like, but I know a formula for it. Well, sure, go for it. Use your formula. 4 times a side length. Well, the side length on this square is 4 centimeters. So our perimeter would be 4 times 4 or 16 centimeters. Same thing we get if we add up all 4 sides. So state the perimeter of this square. If you can hopefully just quick get that, but if not, I can always walk you through it. This side length is 2. This side length is 2. This side length is 2. It's a square. This side length is 2. So our perimeter, we could either add up all our sides, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 2 is 8. 8 units. And we could also, you could say to yourself, but I know perimeter of a square is 4 times an individual side. Sure it is. 4 times 2, you would still get 8 units. So that's just a quick review on perimeter. Now let's see how New York State would ask it to a 7th grader. This is how perimeter was asked on the 2017 New York State assessment. It says the width of a rectangle is 6 2/3 inches. The length of the rectangle is twice its width. What is the perimeter of the rectangle? Okay, great. So we have a rectangle. And I know the the width is 6 2/3 inches. They also tell me the length is twice that width. Well, what does twice mean? Twice means 2 times. So our length will be 2 times our width. And what's our width? Our width is 6 2/3. All right, so I have to multiply 6 2/3. Well, 6 2/3 is about 7. So 2 times 7, my length is going to be around 14. All right, let's go ahead and do this. First of all, I would write this as an improper. So that would be 2 times 6 2/3 as an improper. 3 times 6 is 18, and 2 more is 20. So that becomes 20/3. You know me, I love drawing my pictures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 whole circles. And that's an ugly other circle, but 2/3 of another circle. So if I broke these circles into 6, and I had 6 whole circles and 2/3 of another circle, I better come up with 20/3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Sure is 20/3. So 6 2/3 is the same as 20/3. It's important in mathematics. Even if you have a little process, you're like, oh, well, I know I have to do 6 times 3 is 18, and then add 2 more to get 20/3. You should be able to physically draw it out in math always. All right, 2 is the same as 2/1, multiplying straight across the top, straight across the bottom. That's 40/3. If I have 40/3, oh, wow. If I have 40/3, how many times does 3 go into 40? 3 goes into 40. 3 goes into 4 once. 3 goes into 10 3 times. Remainder of 1, so it must be 13 1/3. I'd have to draw 13 whole circles and then 1/3 of another circle to get all the way to 40/3. So 13 1/3 inches is our length. Sorry, I wrote 1/2. I meant 1/3. All right, so 13 1/3 by 6 2/3. Well, we know if this side's 6 2/3, sorry about that. Oh, I'm a mess tonight. If we know this is 6 2/3, then over here is also 6 2/3 inches. The top edge is 13 1/3. The bottom edge is 13 1/3. We could just add these all up. So I would do 6 2/3, 6 2/3, 13 1/3, 13 1/3. Let me add up all my thirds. 2, 4, 5, 6. That's 6/3. 6 and 6 is 12, and 3 more is 15, and 3 more is 18. And that's 1, 2, 3. So this is 38 6/3. But 6/3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/3 is just 2 whole circles. So that's 38 plus 2, or 40. Must be 40 inches. Wow. So that's how they could ask it at the 7th grade level. Let's look at one more how they could ask it at the 7th grade level for perimeter, which is just the distance around the outside of a figure. All right, this is another way they ask perimeter. The measure of one side of a square is s plus 3 inches long. Which pair of expressions both represent the perimeter of this square? Okay, let's take a look. It's a square. I might not be drawing it beautiful, but it's a square, so all the side lengths are the same. So this is s plus 3. This side's also s plus 3. This side's also s plus 3. This side's also s plus 3. So if we go ahead and find our perimeter of a square, we can do it 2 different ways. We can add up all the sides, s plus 3, s plus 3, s plus 3, s plus 3. Miss Pearson probably has you do your X's and O's. So if I add up my numbers, 3, 6, 9, 12. And how many S's do I have? 1, 2, 3. There's 4 S's. So 4S plus 12. One way I could do that is I could just add them all up and get my 4S plus 12. All right, as I look here, I can see 4S plus 3 isn't possible. The answer has to be 4S plus 12. But I can see here S plus 3, S plus 3, S plus 3, S plus 3. I've added up all my sides. Here they tried multiplying sides. That would be area. I'm eliminating answers now. Multiplying sides would be area. Okay, it's letter D. When you add up all the sides, you get 4S plus 12. This would be the other way to look at perimeter. We know perimeter of a square is 4 times your side length. So the perimeter of our square could be 4 times our side length is S plus 3. And there we have it. You could also use the distributive property, multiply through. This is a throwback to our expressions equations unit. 4 times S is 4S, plus 4 times 3 is 12. There we go. It's got to be letter D. So that's how they might ask it on the New York State test. Hopefully that helps just a little bit with perimeter. Tomorrow night, I'm going to talk about area. Fun times. All righty, Rue.